I'm ready. Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for being here today. I'm delighted to see you all. Welcome back. I hope that you've had a good couple days away and we're all back here. Please take a moment to turn off your electronic devices, silence the notifications on your watches, put away any earbuds that you have in. Um, Take a moment to be here in presence. Actually, it'll be 50 minutes of being here in presence. I invite you to just lower your eyes and take note of how you're feeling in your body. It could be a sensation that you're feeling in your body, a way that your body is working for you in this moment that you notice, or it could be an emotion that you notice. Could be a sense of just being tired or being rested and ready, excited. Some of those emotions come with a physical sensation as well. So just taking a moment to tune into you. And as I mentioned, that looking down, lowering your eyes helps us to tune into, helps me tune into my body. And take a good deep breath. So you've noticed whatever it is you've noticed, and now you're just honoring that. Taking a breath like deep down into your lungs, into your belly. It's a big, nourishing breath, and then naturally exhale. If you have any tension that's coming up, you can consciously release that tension on the out breath. And then do it 2 more times, concentrating on the nourishment of the in breath and the release on the out breath. It's seemingly pretty simple, but it's been shown that you can do this in any moment, right? Breathing is something that it's not like you have to strike some crazy yoga pose to find your center. So you can be in the hub, just sitting at one of the tables, a crowd of people around you, and 3 deep, nourishing breaths, fully exhaling. It helps your body to just become more you, more centered. For many cultures and languages, the word breath and the word soul come from the same root word. And so we're tuning into ourselves, tuning into our souls when we pay attention to our breath. So by refreshing the breath, we also refresh the soul. So remembering this, for some of you, this is your first day in Baisai. So welcome. I'm delighted you're here. I know there's been some movement of people in and people out. Regardless of all of that, we're just glad that all of you are here right now. Thank you. Is there anyone in the room who wasn't here on Monday to receive one of these mini syllabus? If you didn't receive, okay, so just hold your hands up and folks are going to bring a paper around to you. So yes, go. So anybody who is missing those, and if I don't have enough, then I'll bring more next week or I'll post it on Canvas. So mini syllabus will help you to just get oriented to the beginning of how we're starting this class, just getting started with some of the basics. As far as I know, the journal is not yet in the bookstore, and so I'll notify you, as I said, in Canvas. For this week, you'll be printing out that week 1 journal and writing in it. And so the place that you'll find a lot of the information, first I'll say about the power of presence. The reason that, is there another one of these anywhere? Okay, great. Oh, thank you. The power of presence, we can't be in 2 places at once. So if you didn't hear me say this on Monday, that's why no electronics, because we can't be fully present if we're also paying attention to what's going on our devices. So being able to separate yourself for this time. So will you advance, please? Thank you. So this is the opening page of Canvas, the home page. You'll see there in the center the TA contact sheet. So that's the information about your labs and your TAs. And then also there is access here to the YouTube channel for the class recordings. So if you miss a class, you have the opportunity to watch the YouTube video of class and then submit your reflection on the class to your TA. You may do that up to 4 times over the course of the semester, as long as you submit that within a week of your absence to your TA. So that's the link is there for you for that. Monday's class is uploaded for those of you who have just joined the class. You can check out what we did on Monday. Otherwise, in this, you can see along the sides, there are the modules. You'll go there. Week 1 assignment is where you'll find the journal. So there's an announcement in Canvas about that for you. Some of you have messaged me about certain things, and I'm having an extra busy week. I apologize for my lack of reply. I will be working on those replies tomorrow, so I apologize for that, and I will get to you as soon as possible. So when you're considering your journals, so a little bit of coaching on the reflection is that we're really looking for you to reflect about you and your experiences. So if you're trying to say what the TA, what you think the TA wants to hear or what I want to hear, then that's not going to work. So this is about your experience and your opportunity to dive deeper into your understanding of yourself. So we'll do that through, thank you, through the observation, like we talked about on Monday, considering where we started, the idea that we observed our bodies, go ahead. We observed ourselves and each other, the idea of the us and them. We thought about what college was like, all these ways of seeing ourselves, and then also our reflection on our relationship with Earth, because those are the major themes: the connection with self, the connection with other people, and the connection with the natural world that we'll be focusing on during BiSci 3. So here we are today at the scientific method, thinking about the questions, right? So in order to start to get into this, I'd like you to go back to that moment of observation or thinking about observations. And I'm curious if any of you made an observation since the time I saw you last. Have you made an observation that you'd like to share with the class? Yeah.
In one of my other classes, the professor talked about an experiment basically done about a police sketch where friends of this person would like describe this person to the policeman, and then the person they were describing would describe herself to the policeman, and it was a much worse outcome for the person describing herself than with the people. It
Mhm.
just shows how we look at ourselves differently than other people see us.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting case of observation. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Other thoughts about observation or observations that you've made, whether it's about nature or about yourself or about relationship with other people?
Sure. I missed a meeting yesterday and felt really anxious about that. But then I remembered what you said about there was no tiger chasing you down, and it actually did help me ground myself in reality and not anxiety.
Thanks. I'm glad. I know that feeling really well. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Any other observations? So then what we can do is question right from there. So that's where we can think about, why is that outcome so different? Like, how is it that we see ourselves so differently than other people see us? How is it that in our society to miss a meeting feels so vital that it can bring up that anxiety? Like, it brings up a lot of questions for me. So as I walk around campus, it can be lots of nature things. On the walk in, Autumn and I took time to look at the bark of a tree that was really interesting, unlike any other tree bark I've ever seen or taken note of, I should say, because I've walked by this same tree for the last 6 years and not noticed it before. So I can ask myself, like, why didn't I notice that before? That's interesting. Why is it that that tree bark grows that way? It's very distinct and very different than other tree barks. And so it can spark these questions, this curiosity about myself, about the natural world. And then she and I observed it together. And so I could think about that interaction that we had, and there are questions there to be had too, that it was really a sweet opportunity to be with her. You know, how is it that I could create more sweet opportunities like that with people that I care about? So the questions jump out of our observations. They can really like take root in something so simple and then lead us to these ways of being curious. And so that's where we're going to pick up today. We have Thomas Edison here. Of course, you know about Thomas Edison, businessman first. He's been described as America's greatest inventor. The phonograph, the motion picture camera, the light bulb, founder of General Electric. It took thousands of iterations before the light bulb works the way it works. And so then to get it to practical and usable form took even more iterations. So I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So he kept asking questions. He kept exploring and figuring it out. He was also one of the first inventors to apply the idea of organized science and teamwork to the process of invention. So it's said that he was the inventor of the phonograph and the motion picture camera, but really he was the first one to kind of gather people around to share ideas. And so he's the one who gets the credit for it because he was the holder of that vessel that created those things. But there were lots of people working on that project and all asking questions together to end up in that cool kind of way. So it's interesting to think about. I grew up, right, being curious about the natural world. I also grew up, I was a science major in college, and I understood through that whole time that the scientific method was only for scientists in labs who are looking at fruit flies and their characteristics. Like, what if we take these two fruit flies and they have eggs and babies? And so I thought that that was the case, or like liquid to gas, that scientific method only applied to that. But coming to understand that it applies to everything I choose to do in my life, the ways that I move through the world, was really an exciting discovery for me. So how can I ask questions that further me along in my exploration of this world? So I'd like you to take a moment and think about someone in your life that strikes you as curious. Someone who strikes you as curious, filled with questions, asking, maybe marveling over things, alive, energized, engaged, constantly learning. So, who comes to mind for you? I'd like you to share with your neighbor a story of somebody that is curious. And if there's a group of 3 of you that need to share, that's great. So, turn to somebody next to you, either side. Make sure everybody has somebody else to talk to. No, and that's the one I think that should work because the matte one wasn't working the other day. So maybe it's just where the battery is dead in this. I don't know if there are any other, if there are more batteries down in here anywhere. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we can try that. And if they're not, you might as well put the other ones back in. I love how you burst into conversation. That was so exciting for me. Thank you. So, who in your lives? Share a story with me. The cool thing about now just getting to hear from a partner is that you could share your story, or you could say, hey, my partner and I talked, and I got to hear about this person in their lives. So you have two possibilities of things that you could answer now. So a story of someone who's curious. I would love to hear two stories of curious people.
Me and my partner both actually talked about our brothers, and I shared a story about my older brother, and he's a full-time cop, but everyone on his force calls him Big Smiley, and he's just always, you'll just find him doing any random side quest he can.
Side quest. I love that. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Big smiley. Love it. Another story of a curious person? Yeah.
Thank you. My friend, her name is Juliana. She originally came here from Colombia, and she's always like very curious because she's very thankful for the opportunity to be here in America and just to explore all the places, the education that here, like that America brings. So I think that's a large reason why we're friends because she just brings me like joy and like actually to start thinking about it.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So it's kind of contagious, right? That joy of curiosity. How many of you spoke about a child in your life that's curious? Yeah. So that's where a lot of curiosity, right? We're all born as those curious human beings. So thinking about this, we're all born with it. Preschoolers ask dozens of questions per hour. Research shows, though, that adults don't answer many of those questions of children. Maybe they don't have the answers. Maybe they're too busy doing something else. Maybe they're tired of answering questions. And so that curiosity, right? It's easy to snuff out curiosity. So can any of you relate to this? That it's at one point you remember being a curious person, a curious kid, and now not so much? Can anybody relate to that? Yeah, I think it's something that's sort of an undercurrent of our communities and our population these days. I think about my son Henry at age 3. We were riding to a friend's farm, and um, and there was another person, another adult in the car with us. And Henry is still an incredible person of questions. And so on the way to this farm, it was about a 9-mile drive. Henry just was question after question after question. And the person that was riding with us, the other adult, said, if you ask another question, Henry, I'm going to explode. And I was so angry. I was so angry that that person shut him down because that's how he was taking in the world, right? That's how he was expressing himself and learning about these things that he didn't know about. And so I was really frustrated. And in fact, that person and I don't spend a lot of time together anymore because there seemed to be a real separation of life philosophy. And and so I think that I asked that person, like, why would you say that? Like, well, I was just tired of it. I'm just tired of the questions. It's like, oh, that's really interesting. And so, I mean, this is my son Henry, who just built his own computer last week at age 14. So there's something about that spark, that creativity, that curiosity that I think is so important to nurture in young people, and understanding that for many of us in the room, and I included, that curiosity was tamped down somewhat by formal education. So if you really think about where curiosity has gotten us as human beings, it's gotten us everywhere we've been, right? Every continent, every island that's been populated has been populated because somebody said, I bet there's land over there. I wonder what's over there. I think we should go that way. I think we should explore that. I wonder what that land is like. I wonder if there are other people over there. And so that curiosity, the idea of, is there water over that hill? Would this be a good place to make our encampment? Can I move in a different way other than crawling? So think about how curiosity as toddlers moved us from rolling over to crawling to walking, right? Curiosity has gotten us everywhere. Curiosity is actually the human superpower, in my opinion. So traditional school culture, where the teacher is the expert and the student is the empty bucket to be filled with answers, doesn't really allow much space for these questions. Because when you have a classroom of 24 first graders, there's not enough time to answer all of their questions. So traditional education doesn't particularly serve us well. And so we are now faced with a culture of incuriosity. The idea that we've been kind of shut down in that question asking, I think is really an important reflection for us to take on for us as individuals and as a collective. So where is this leading us to? If we think about there's more disconnect from individual to individual, that there's more suffering, more polarization, I think more separation from different cultures, different groups of people, different communities, that I think that that's a result of our lack of curiosity. So closing ourselves off from understanding and being curious about other people's perspective and stories and other people's humanity, how they're moving through the world, is a real challenge these days. So when we spend time being curious, it's often not the people that are in the lower ranks of organizations that get to express their curiosity, right? It's usually in top-down organizations or top-down education that the people at the bottom just do the work, like just put your head down, do the work, and get things done. There's also a fear of looking stupid, right? If you're asking people in the upper levels questions. So it's become rarer to practice that deep listening and that deep curiosity because of how our systems are set up of leadership. So this disconnect then, of course, leads to more shaming or judging or dehumanizing people that we don't understand or that we don't agree with, rather than engaging in conversation. Deep listening to the world around us leads us to connection in the outdoors. Deep listening is what I'm thinking about when I'm seeing things with new eyes, when I'm exploring things in a new way, when I'm opening to different possibilities. And when we don't do those curiosity things, there's a certain amount of joy, I think, that can be lost in those discoveries, then the subsequent discoveries when we are not asking the questions. And in fact, research shows that it's killing us, literally. Long-term studies have found that less curiosity chops time off of our lifespan. You may live less if you are less curious. Simply because it leads to some level of isolation, and isolation and loneliness affect our health. So how can we do it differently? So what if we can get back to our roots of curiosity, back to our true nature of being humans? What might that look like? What will that take for us to get there? So a couple of different stories. Here's the story of the hero's journey. Many of you know this story, I'm sure. So if you think about the theme of many of our popular cultural works, so books like the Odyssey and the Iliad, whether you've read them or not, those are understanding this movement from the known to the unknown. But then if you think about the more popular ones of today, the Star Wars, right? All of the adventures of Star Wars are about the hero's journey. It's leaving home, traveling from the known to the unknown. Harry Potter, The Lion King, Spider-Man, Lord of the Rings, Mr. Incredible, you know the story. It's all of these people who go from humdrum life, leaving home, the known place, into this space of committing to risk, confronting fears of some kind, and then moving into the space of surviving the challenge, and then returning home to offer that gift, right? Spider-Man is my favorite, my personal favorite, right? You wake up one day and you suddenly have these powers that you didn't expect, that you had no idea were coming, and then trying to figure out, right? He leaves home And then he tries to make money as a boxer, like he's using his superhuman strength for not such good things until he figures out like his Spider-Man path in life. So, who do you think of when you think of a hero? Tell your neighbor that story. Who is a hero to you? I'd love to hear two stories of heroes that you know personally. You share, would like to share a story of a hero in your life.
I would definitely say my dad. He is a person who always encourages curiosity. So every time I tell him like I'm gonna do like a odd job, like maybe Dad, what if I change to become a carpenter? He always tells me, be the best one then. And you know what? Always try to find new ways. Always try to find a passion because life you can only live it once. So always try to find something that makes you happy and have fun.
Love that. I hope I get to meet your dad someday. Sweet. There's someone in the back there, Vic. Might be good to go around this way. Straight up.
So we both talked and we agreed that our parents. So I mean, like I know my mom, his parents like a lot of sacrifice. Um, my mom worked doubles. His parents, they sacrificed for traveling hockey, which is extremely expensive. So just putting your children's needs or somebody's needs over your own.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in that. I appreciate you speaking to that. Thank you. That's sweet. So understanding that these heroes are people that we can look to and often that have a lot behind those choices that they're making. You know, it makes me curious about how they chose those ways of being and how they became the people that they did in order to be able to give that kind of advice, to be able to offer those kinds of opportunities. So being curious gives us a tool into learning about those people in our lives that have done this, right? That have probably traveled the more challenging path in life. So there are other people out there, right, that are doing this, the hero's journey So thinking about Rosa Parks, to bring about change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try. So this amazing lady, her pivotal role, of course, in the Montgomery bus boycott, the US Congress calls her the First Lady of Civil Rights and the mother of the freedom movement. So we know her story, right? She wouldn't give up her seat to a white person in the section of the bus. She says this, people always say I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I was not old, I was 42. The only tired I was tired of giving in. Another way of saying this was that she was bold enough to be curious about what would happen if she changed the story, right? It took curiosity, it took bravery to step into this hero's journey and make a change. But it took that curiosity at the very root of what she was thinking was, what is my meaning in culture and how can I shift this story? And so there's a bravery there. And not that we are all going to end up like Rosa Parks, but we all have this capacity in our lives to express this curiosity. So understanding that we make the observations and then we ask the questions, we get curious, and that is the hero's journey. Those questions lead us into the unknown. And what is the power of that? Research shows that there's a strong link between curiosity and feelings of well-being. People who are curious orient their lives toward discovery and growth, predisposed to engage in rather than avoid new and different activities. Social scientists report that curious people tend to be more self-aware, and they don't shy away from those tough questions of like the who am I or where do I want to go in life? Those are big questions. And if we steer away from them, going small, not taking the hero's journey, then we aren't going to live our full capacity. So whatever you're going to do, be the best that you can be at that thing. And that is about being curious. So this is an astonishing young woman. She, in this photo, was 15 or 16. She's now 23. This is Greta Thunberg. She's been asking questions and pushing for change. She's been on the hero's journey since she was a teenager. We'll just watch this quick video about her. It's okay.
We're Phoenix Center, a family-owned oil company focused on unleashing American oil in Dakota and Montana. We can already sold.
I see myself as one out of millions in this movement. People look up to me in some way, I guess. That, of course, puts me in a bit of a different position. People listen to what I have to say. I want you to unite behind the science.
Welcome, Greta Thunberg. You're changing the world.
The world is waking up.
Okay, we're on.
But I'm not a leader or the face of the climate movement. I'm just one of many faces. We can't just continue living as if there was no tomorrow. Because there is a tomorrow.
There is something about Greta Thunberg that seems to trigger some people.
It was all a little melodramatic.
Honey, go back to school, calm down, it's gonna be okay. Did President Trump just mock a 16-year-old Swedish climate activist?
What we young activists are doing is telling people to listen to and unite behind the science. Our leaders need to start acting accordingly. We get all this hate that shows we are actually making a difference and they see us as a threat. We often talk about these negative tipping points, things we can't change. But there could be also positive tipping points, like when people decide they have had enough.
To lead what could be the biggest day of protest yet. Strikes she's inspired in the US and across the world.
We're striking today in 150 countries. the tipping point we are waiting for right now is that people will realize what power we actually have. The moment the one striker became two strikers, that was a big step. The biggest victory is that the general awareness has been increasing. I'm not sailing mainly because I want to lower my carbon footprint. If one person stops flying, then that sends a signal we are in a crisis. I think we need to spread that awareness right now. It is hard to be different sometimes. I have Asperger's, I'm on the autism spectrum, so I don't really care about social codes that way. Many people see it as a weakness or a disease, but it's not. I have been very limited by my diagnosis in the past, but now I don't suffer from it anymore. I use it in a way that can take advantage of. I think the hope right now is in the people.
We need to work together. In order to change everything, we need everyone.
I would like to tell my grandchildren that we did everything we could.
We are the ones who are going to bring change.
And we did it for them, for the generations to come.
And all of that started with curiosity, right? That curiosity of what's going on in the world today. And then that curiosity about why does that bother me? Oh, that bothers me in these ways, even though, that it's a challenging place to be moving into the unknown. But she chose to act on what she discovered when she asked herself the question. So how is it that we can ask ourselves the questions as well? Will you advance one more? Oh, yep, there you go. Thanks. Question everything. Until I really dove into this class, I didn't like this phrase very much. It seemed that if I was questioning people, then I was doubting them or that I was being disrespectful, and I don't like being disrespectful. And yet I discovered that was my perception. It's all about how I express my curiosity, how the questions come about that really can help me learn so much from the people around me. So how is it that you're choosing to do it that way? Like, I'm curious about the systems that are in place for this. And so through this class, I'm unlearning and relearning the value of this message. So what has happened in our society to stifle that curiosity? Seems like those people in power, the teachers and the parents and the bosses and the managers, those are the people that get to ask more questions and then tell the people under them how to think. So we want to open this up, right? Open up the possibilities for what happens if we start asking questions that feel authentic to us. Next week in your journal, when you have it, there is an action assignment that you'll have to write 75 questions related to you, related to your life, 75 questions that pertain to you personally. It can be tough to dig in and get down to some nitty-gritty questions. The TAs will offer you some coaching about this. But will you click? The change brings the questions, and the questions bring more change. So I'm curious, as this new year, as this new semester begins, what questions are you wrestling with? Have a conversation with your neighbor. What questions are you wrestling with? Well, Does anybody have a burning question that you'd like to share?
Um, I've been listening to this artist named Solange, and she has an interlude on her album that says, like, do nothing without intention. And I've been asking myself, does everything in your life need to have intention, or can sometimes things just be spontaneous?
I love that question. That's really fun to think about. Other questions?
You said on next week's journal that we're supposed to write 75 questions about ourselves. Why do you think it's important that we write 75 questions? Why not 20 or 10?
Because you won't get deep.
I won't get deep.
Yeah,
But what if we ask like 10 or 20 really deep questions, right?
that's great. Yeah, and it is my experience that it takes a little bit of warm up.
Okay.
And so I'll be anxious to hear what you think afterward. And so if you dive in and you start deep, where are you going to go from there? Where's the deeper
Good point.
from that point?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know. It'll be your experience, but I'll love to hear about it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your question. Appreciate that.
Hi. First I want to say is that the journal's actually in the bookstore right now. I found it today, so in the Hub bookstore. So yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you.
And I guess my question is like I feel like last semester my mood kind of like was a lot like went up and down, and I wonder if like this semester if I'm gonna have more of a stable mood or like how it's gonna go in terms of that.
Yeah. And so how's the flow going to go? How am I going to be in this? So did you hear the first part? The journal is in the bookstore. You've heard it, you're first. Thanks for the report. That's super exciting. Um, if you've already printed, that's fine for this week. That's great too. So, yeah, it's often the quality of our questions that help us to dig in deeper. So if you're able to ask questions, the what questions inform and the why questions transform. Dieter Uchtdorf says this. So the what informs and the why transforms. So if you play with this just a little bit, hey, are you having a good day? Are you having a good day? Yeah. He says, yeah. Okay. That's kind of the end of the conversation. Like I asked a question that was a yes or no answer. He answered yes, kind of closed down the rest, like what happens after that. So if I ask you, what kind of a day are you having? Yeah.
Pretty solid day.
Pretty solid day.
Yeah.
Cool. Why? Why are you having a solid day?
I enjoyed lunch.
Enjoyed lunch.
Friends I grabbed lunch with.
Nice. Yeah, he likes social interaction. He grabbed lunch with friends. That was pretty cool. So the idea of, are you having a good day? What kind of a day are you having? Pretty solid. And then why are you having that? Why did you respond that way? Gets to a little bit deeper. Now I know something that really cool about him. He enjoys social interaction and he got to have lunch with friends, which made him happy. So understanding the way that we play with questions, what did you do this summer is one kind of question. Why did you choose to do that with your free time would be another kind of question. So this is something that you can play with when you go out into the world from this point forward is how can you ask questions that get at answers that are not just yes or no. Like, how can you open and expand and get to know yourself and other people with the quality of questions that you ask? What are the good, deep, juicy questions? So nothing shapes our lives so much as the questions we ask, refuse to ask, or never dream of asking. Curiosity comes from the Latin word curiosus, means careful, diligent, inquiring eagerly, or even meddlesome. So how can you expand and express your curiosity? How is that going to affect you if you let curiosity back into your life if it has disappeared? If it is not, how can you expand and grow where you are or celebrate the place where you live in that curiosity? Curiosity is a practice. It's something that takes, it's just like yoga or art or music or sport. Curiosity is something that the more that we do it, the more that we have it, the more that the skill it gets embedded into who we are. So I want to leave you with this self-study, this sidewalk experiment, I call it. So imagine yourself walking down this sidewalk, right? Maybe it's early in the morning, maybe it's toward dusk. And you see a person in the fog in the distance. You're the only two people on the sidewalk. As you walk toward this person, and that person walks towards you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in that situation, right? What is the path, the heroic path for you? Is that you're going to like suddenly pull out your phone and be busy when you see that person? Are you going to say, hey, good morning? Are you going to wave? Are you going to pretend that person doesn't exist? How is it that you engage with the world around you? And how does that shape the culture that we live in? So I'd like you to observe your own methods of moving around campus, moving around in the world, and then reflect on why. This isn't an assignment that's going to be graded or that's going to be, it's just a way of practicing that curiosity and engagement. The idea that we move through the world according to our beliefs about ourselves and others. And what does that look like for you? So this Thursday or Friday, you have your lab section. You'll be meeting up with your TA in the room where your Lion Path says, and I hope that you experience some really good opportunities there. So thank you very much for your time. Have a beautiful day. Hi. Welcome.
I just want to just double check about something with the assignment.
Okay.
Because I'm just a little bit confused about what we're supposed to do.
I'm glad that you asked.
So I know you have these things right here for the readings and
Yep,
stuff.
those are the readings. Yep.
And I know this is basically a reflection assignment.